it's Rev'N Garage here, and we are excited because Blue Betty is in the garage, and we're going to have a little bit of a carburetor shootout this evening. First thing that we're going to be working with is going to be a carburetor that was sent out to us by RoyalAir carburetors. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and do an unboxing, take a look at it, see if the carburetor is put together well from the factory. We're going to put it onto the Blue Betty just straight out of the box, no modifications whatsoever, and see how she runs and see how she handles with it. Okay, what we have here is a RoyalAir 4150 style carburetor. We're going to do an unboxing exactly the way it comes in the package and see how she looks. Right out of the gate, I can see that we have carburetor gaskets, and it appears to have several sets of jets for the carburetor as well. Here's the carburetor itself. Overall, looks like a pretty good piece. We've got some attachments, a choke wire. Let me go ahead and shut this box up and we'll take a look at the carburetor once we get it unwrapped. Okay, this is a 4150 style carburetor with an electric choke on it. One thing that I've always been informed about with carburetors that are not US made are just to make sure the squirters are on tight. Looking at these, they actually look centered. It actually looks very well put together. So we're going to go ahead, start taking off the carburetor that is currently on Blue Betty and stick on this RoyalAir 4150. Okay, the first thing that we're going to have to do in Blue Betty here before we install the new RoyalAir carburetor is going to go ahead and take the air breather off, the crankcase ventilation hose, the fuel line, all of your springs and linkage over onto the other side for the throttle. So let's go ahead, we'll just start up and I'll go ahead and get this stuff taken off. Usually take a screwdriver and you can pop in between here and it'll pop that linkage off. As far as the fuel line over here, we'll probably just cut it off because we're going to be running some new fuel line because there's a brand new fuel log for this particular carburetor. Make sure that you keep track of all your hardware. You don't want anything to drop down through the intake because that's just going to be a bad day. It'll go right down into the cylinders of the engine, and then you're taking things apart because if not, it's going to play ping pong all inside your engine and tear it all up. We also have to, on this side, unhook the line for the electric choke. We'll put a rag underneath here to make sure that we catch any gas that falls down. And remember, if you're doing this and it's a hot engine, be very careful. You don't want anything to ignite. We'll cut the rest of it off here with a razor knife. There we go. Fuel line is loose. Whoa, a little fuel there. Okay, now that everything's off, we're going to go ahead and get the RoyalAir 4150 style carburetor and get it set down on the intake manifold, and then we'll just start doing the reverse process of what we did to take the carburetor off. Once again, just make sure that you're careful with your hardware. I went ahead and I looked over this carburetor, and so far it looks like it's a pretty decent piece. So I'm really hoping for good quality performance out of it. Okay, now we'll take our 1/2 inch long socket and we're just going to tighten this up. Now make sure you go in a crisscross pattern. That way you get it evenly distributed across the intake manifold. And also, a carburetor does not need to be tightened down very far. It just needs to make sure that it's on there decent enough to get a decent squish on the intake manifold. And that's really all you need. We've got a ported vacuum over here for the distributor. So we'll go ahead and wrap this around, put it onto the carburetor. That way our vacuum advance will work. One thing that I did do off camera is I put the ball for the carburetor over here. It was on the other one. You'll have to have that for your linkage on this particular carburetor. And it just pops on just the same. We'll get our return spring to make sure that the carburetor does come back. All right, we'll go ahead, remove our rag. I'm gonna have to go back and get a fuel clamp real quickly. Okay, we got our fuel clamp. We'll go ahead and wrap this fuel line back up and around. Oh, about put it on too quickly. There we go. You're going to get a little fuel probably if you have had your vehicle started whenever you do this. That's okay. We'll just get it cleaned up before we actually start the vehicle, or it will evaporate itself. Hey, we just got the car pushed out of the garage just a little bit because we didn't want the exhaust fumes to be coming in. So this RoyalAir 4150 is literally just put on the car. We have not adjusted any of the idles. We have not done anything to it. And I'm really curious just to see how it will fire up for the very first time. All right, let's go ahead and fire it. Okay, looking here, we have no fuel leaks. This thing started directly up right out of the box. It really has surprised me. One thing that we're going to do is we're going to come back to Blue Betty because I just wanted to see how this would perform straight out of the box without any adjustments. We are actually going to be doing some performance modifications to this RoyalAir 4150. I'm very excited now that once we were able to see how well this performed just out of the box. So if anyone is considering buying one of these, I really would not be scared of the 4150 style from RoyalAir. But right now we're going to go ahead and take it off. We're going to go ahead and get the Summit carburetor that was rebuilt, the 850 that's jetted down to the 650. But we will come back to this carburetor with some performance modifications. Now that we got the RoyalAir 4150 off of Blue Betty, we're going to go ahead and put the Summit 850 that has been rebuilt and basically tuned down to a 650. We'll go ahead, get it hooked up, see how well she works. I'm anxious to see how this carburetor performs. This is just going to be its first run. We are going to be doing some performance modifications to it. And before the end of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about that RoyalAir carburetor again. So far, I'm very impressed with it. So we'll get this done and wrapped up. Remember not to over tighten these carburetor studs. It just needs to make a decent enough seal so the carburetor doesn't leak air. Make sure to remember to hook up the vacuum advance for the carburetor. As well as the fuel line. Okay, fuel line's on. We got our throttle hooked up, our spring, return spring, we got our vacuum advance. The crankcase ventilation, this particular air breather that he's going to be using will have that. I think we're good to go, and we'll see if the carburetor is leaking any fuel or anything, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I turned the electric fuel pump on, just taking a look over everything. Looks like all the gaskets and seals are good and not leaking. Also, I can see fuels in the sight glass. So, gives us a little bit of gas there on the initial startup. We'll see if she'll start up. Okay, so what I can see here is this particular carburetor does run really well on Blue Betty's 302. Seems like it really likes the jet adjustments I've made to it, dropping it down. The 850 would have been way too much for it. We'll go ahead and shut it off. All right, now Blue Betty is back together. Seems like she is running really well. We'll go ahead and take it out for a test drive here in a little while, see if everything's running great or if we need to do some adjustments on that carburetor. All right, first test drive here. Seems like she's moving pretty good. Like I said, there's no choke in the car whatsoever. Upon startup, it starts up pretty easily. Smells, runs cleaner than what it was. No hiccups or anything like that. Alright, here we're getting her out on the open road. Got some pretty good pickup upon acceleration. How do you think it runs compared to what it used to?
You can definitely tell a difference. It's got more throat to it.
Does it seem like it's got more giddy up whenever you're pushing down into it?
Yes, more. More of just about everything compared to the Eldebrock. Overall, this one has more performance, yes.
Good deal, good deal. Well, it sounds like we made the right decision on taking it at 850, jetting it down, and doing a full rebuild on the Summit carburetor. Seems to like all the modifications we're doing. It's just factory settings at turn and a half out. We'll have to do some modifications in the future whenever more performance modifications get put into the carburetor or into the car. So we'll go from there. Acceleration is much harder, much more torque and
what it had to what it is now.
Good deal. Well, it seems like Blue Betty's liking this. I'm ready for the next chapter of her. We'll see where things are going in the future. We'll talk to you here in a little bit. Hey, we're back. Like I said, we're going to talk about this RoyalAir 4150 that they sent out. This is their horsepower design. Right out of the gate, this thing was amazing. Out of the box, we put it right on Blue Betty. It performed flawlessly, no hiccups, no anything. Based off of that, I think this could be a really good carburetor. I think it'd be a good budget carburetor. And we're going to be looking for the performance modifications of it. My plans in the future, in the near future, is actually to change out the power valves in this, maybe do some jetting for it, and actually make it a blow-through carburetor for a very future project. Now, we've been talking to RoyalAir, and they make several other kinds of carburetors. They make the Edelbrock design, they make some two-barrel Ford designs, they made the Quadrajet style design, and I'd like to get a few of those on the channel to try for a carburetor shootout. So if you'd like to see that kind of content and see what performance we can build out of them, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.